Hi everybody, we are the United States, located in North America. As a team, we represent Donald Trump's administration and their views on climate change. Additionally, we represent the collective views of climate change from the citizens of the United States, as we see their views as critical in tackling climate change, because their support for political leaders and government policies is paramount to the success of these against the issue of climate change. As we are a democracy led by Donald Trump, our political stance on climate change comes from mainly the laws created by his administration, which are enforced to the rest of the country. Compared to the previous administration, our take on climate change is vastly different. This can be seen by our quick dissolution of their laws addressing climate change. However, it is common to have differences in opinion between different administrations regarding the issue of climate change, but also between the United States and the world, as we question the reality, seriousness, and need for vigorous action today. We, as the United States, have had a profound effect on the environment and have contributed a fair amount to the global problems resulting from climate change. With only 5% of the world's population, we emit the largest amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which accounts for nearly 25% of global emissions. Furthermore, per capita, we emit 5.4 metric tons of carbon each year. However, this is due to our status as a global economic and manufacturing powerhouse, from which many other countries benefit. In total, of the increase of 0.7 degrees globally since pre-industrial times, we as the United States alone have contributed 0.15 degrees, which is just above 20%. The United States is being affected now and will continue to be affected in the future in numerous ways because of climate change. Firstly, looking at the environment, the climate across our nation varies from state to state, which will all be affected differently. The increasing temperatures will have a profound negative effect on the coastal states, as rising sea levels raises the risk of flooding, and this would displace many Americans as there is great population density along our east and west coastlines. In the central states, the outbreaks of wildfire and insects have been increasing now and will grow if the current predicted temperature rises eventuate. Finally, the diminishing snowfields threaten our natural water resources and places a strain on the citizens of the United States. From a social view, there are and will be effects which negatively impact the United States. There is an increased risk of death from the rising heat, especially in the very young and elderly demographics, but also from water and vector-borne diseases and the water quality, which is already declining. Furthermore, our population is aging, and with the possibility of declining natural resources, there will be a strain on water and food, especially in urban areas. Finally, from an economic stance, Donald Trump's administration has assessed the consequences of past climate change policies on job availability and the United States economic power, and has therefore altered them to improve the standard of life for American citizens. The previous administration spent a lot of money on climate change and reduced the productivity of many businesses, which focus on the collection and burning of oil, gas, and coal, and not only affects us but the rest of the world. As our president says, we can protect the environment while providing people with work, getting the best of both worlds. Now, Oliver and Eliza will address and expand on problems with the United States as a climate change stakeholder, and Harry will conclude with the solutions that we as the Trump administration and the United States put forward to combat climate change in the future.
Hi, I'll be discussing why we've adopted the policies we have in tackling climate change, primarily from a fiscal angle. Economic realism is at the forefront of our appraisal of the climate change problem, and in turn we believe a realistic schema is central to our approach. As the world's largest economy, the US holds stakes extending well beyond our borders. We hold great interest in fostering industry both in the developing world and the economically prosperous nations, not only to benefit our own state, but also to promote economic stability on a global level. We know that it's no coincidence that fiscal prosperity and interdependence has been vital in maintaining global peace. And is there a better exemplar than the United States that's promoted free capital worldwide? Is it truly worth risking this achievement when we consider what's at stake? While we recognise that commerce intrinsically convolutes climate change response, it's undeniable that the proposed impacts of climate change have largely been alarmist and sensationalised. Certain notable members of the scientific community, blind to the needs of the people, have been particularly guilty of this fear-mongering. Allow me to elaborate, basing our propositions on a combination of well-received peer-reviewed scientific research as well as sound economic studies. It's widely understood that the most optimal policy is a reduction of the cost of mitigation whilst addressing climate change appropriately. no one can begin to propose that a reduced energy output will lead to an equal or greater gross domestic product. To adopt the panic response is asking for the ushering of planned austerity, poor planning, and extensive stagnation of human development. This has the potential to lead to wide-scale poverty that would not only put immense strain on the US citizens, but the world as a whole. More importantly, the majority of the detriments from climate change are very unlikely going to bear any significant burdens on human life until the 22nd century, as indicated by extensive research. This is supported by hard figures that indicate that industries affected are minuscule portions of the global economy. The sectors represent approximately 5% of the global economy and even less in the US, and they're expected to shrink in importance over time. However, more recent information indicates that several sectors within that 5% that anticipate damage, including agriculture, tourism, timbering, are now predicted to conversely be benefited from warmer, wetter, and more carbon dioxide-enriched climate. It's only when an increase of 2 degrees has been exceeded do the net damages begin to outweigh the net benefits. Even so, by the end of the century, the predicted 2% drop in GDP from climate change damages has been superseded by the more recent reputable inquiries to a 0.2% decline. It's time we ask ourselves, is it really worth sacrificing the prosperous lives we lead today for an issue that we can confront far more efficiently in the future? The reasonable answer should be an overwhelming no.
On behalf of the Trump administration, I will be discussing the nature of the social impacts of climate change in the United States, outlining a plan of action in dealing with the social cost of carbon, as well as highlighting how our approach to climate change will ensure that American jobs are prioritised. Our administration recognises the long-term social threat of emissions of carbon pollution to the lives, health and well-being of American people, as supported by the Department of Defense, who stated global climate change will aggravate problems such as poverty, social tensions, ineffectual leadership, and weak political institutions that threaten stability in a number of countries. President Donald Trump's authoritative decision to sign the Energy Independence Executive Order at the Environmental Protection Agency symbolises a powerful movement towards the achievement of energy independence in the United States. This was highlighted in Section 1, Policy A of the order, which states, "It is in the national interest to ensure that the nation's electricity is affordable, reliable, safe, secure and clean, and that it can be produced from coal, natural gas, nuclear material, flowing water and other domestic sources, including renewable sources." The executive order will allow for considerable assistance in promoting energy production and growth through enabling coal to become competitive again in the US economy by refossilizing the US power sector and helping to slow the decline in the coal mining jobs to ensure the social and economic crisis of American jobs is our fundamental priority. The impact of the executive order was outlined by Mr. Trump, who stated that, "With today's executive action, I am taking historic steps to lift the restrictions on American energy, to reverse government intrusion, and to cancel job-killing regulations." Under the guidance of Mr. Trump, our administration believes that scrapping the previous Obama plan will considerably assist in increasing jobs and prove invaluable in reducing America's reliance on imported fuel, allowing us to move forward on energy production in the US. In explicit contrast to the previous administration, who devalued workers with their policies, the Trump administration is striving to protect the environment while providing people with work. Under the leadership of Trump, the federal government will no longer have to withhold unnecessary account for climate change when reporting on the environmental impact of an action or a project. The executive order orders agencies to reconsider the social cost of carbon and withdraws an Obama-era order that required agencies to consider the impact of climate change in their environmental permitting process. The social cost of carbon is used to estimate when climate mitigating policies are a valuable investment. Under the order, restrictions on methane releases at oil and gas drilling facilities will be eased and regulators will be directed to use a discount rate that will dramatically reduce or eliminate that cost. The beneficial impact of the order was supported by Kentucky Coal Association President Tyler White, who stated that, "I can tell you that it provides confidence in the administration's commitment to the coal industry." Overall, the Trump administration believes that the executive order is a beneficial movement towards avoiding the damaging social consequences of climate change through allowing for an increase in the nation's energy independence, increasing jobs in affected sectors and related industries, as well as achieving Trump's employment promise to coal miners that was made during his presidential campaign.
On August 3, 2015, the Obama administration and the EPA announced the Clean Power Plan. This plan was set in place to specifically target CO2 emissions. It instigated goals for reducing carbon emissions from electricity production. Each state had a specific goal to adhere to. The objective was aimed to reduce the national carbon emission levels by 32% by 2030 as compared to the levels apparent in 2005. With the 2016 US election bringing Donald Trump into power, the perspective and approaches surrounding climate change shifted. Donald Trump urges that the Obama Clean Power Plan is enforcing the war on coal, and that this war on coal is detrimental to the USA and must be amended. A large factor to the war on coal, which Trump emphasizes throughout his speeches, is that over the last 15 years, the amount of coal-related jobs have almost halved. Trump has said, "I am taking historic steps to lift restrictions on American energy and to cancel job-killing regulations." Donald Trump's reasoning behind removing the Clean Power Plan was derived from an economic perspective. With all the jobs lost in the coal industry, the US coal industry is rapidly shrinking. Although shrinking in the US, the Asian market for coal has risen drastically over the last decade. Asia, which used to control 46%, now controls 73% of global coal levels, and America has dropped from 25% down to 10%. Trump advises that removing the Clean Power Plan will restore economic freedom to the US. In addition, the Clean Power Plan was also found to affect companies and businesses negatively. This Climate Regulation Act was becoming the crucial reason as to why companies were finding it harder to challenge their international competitors. The local focus on clean power was hindering such businesses due to their increased bills and management of energy levels. This resulted in similar international companies excelling rather than the US. Removing the Clean Power Plan will help see America become more economically and energy independent. Although removing the plan will mean carbon emission levels will not drop by the expected 32%, a report done by the US Energy Information Administration shows that the removal of the Clean Power Plan will not result in a spike in carbon emissions. Rather, the carbon emission levels will remain stable over the next 25-year period. These levels are projected to stay well below the levels that were present in 2005, which were set as the standard to the Clean Power Plan. To aid with the coal market restoration, Donald Trump has designated appropriate facilities. The most influential facilities are the Dakota and Keystone XL pipelines. The Keystone XL pipeline, the larger of the two, which spans 1,900 kilometers, has the capacity to transport 470,000 barrels of oil per day, equivalent to 75 million liters. The addition of this pipeline will ensure a more efficient and cost-effective method of transporting the oil, which in turn will reduce the corresponding carbon emission levels involved. This is a large improvement from the current mode of transport by train. Many powerful authoritative figures have backed the construction of these pipelines. Notably, Kelsey Warren, the chief executive at Energy Transfer Partner, has invested $100,000 to support Trump's campaign. The construction of these pipelines would help the US to see an increase in profit margins from American oil companies and energy production. Overall, the current American government believes its current climate change regulation schemes are obstructing their development and global presence, and, as a result, they are progressively reducing the negative influence the schemes have on their prosperity.